What's going on, guys? Happy Friday. In this video, I'm going to talk about Cleanspark a bit. We're going to talk about Bitcoin on the chart. We're also going to talk about some things coming up next week to look out for. And we also received some economic data today, so we're going to quickly look over that. Now, if you find these videos helpful, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Consider checking out the links down below for some free stocks and cryptos. And let's get this started. And first, the news today. We had news that the unemployment rate fell unexpectedly to 3.7% in November, showing that the labor market may not be cooling down as initially thought. Now, we did receive some other job data a few days ago indicating otherwise, so it looks like we're getting some mixed messages from the jobs. But we added 199,000 jobs, which is up from the previous month's reading, partly due to striking auto workers and Hollywood actors coming back to the workforce. Let's look at Fed rate expectations. Because of Friday's hotter than expected jobs report, the odds that we'll see a cut in January dropped from 15 to 4%. It was already very unlikely that we'd see a cut at this point, but looking into March, there are economists that expect potential rate cuts by March. The odds of a 25 basis point drop or a 0.25% drop actually came down to a 45% expectation compared to a 55%. And the odds of a 50 basis point drop or a 0.5% drop in rates went from a 9% expected chance to a 3% expected chance. And the Fed meeting is coming out next week. And we also have some important data leading up to it as well. And I did touch on this in a video about a week ago, but I want to remind you that coming up to the Fed meeting, we do have PPI and CPI to look forward to. And our last read for CPI was at 3.2%, and our lowest read was around summer at a 3% CPI. So if we can come in under 3%, I think that'll be a huge thing for the market. The forecast is a 3.1%, and if we do get a 3.1, that would be a decrease month over month, which is important, but it would be bigger to see us finally get into the twos. That psychological 3 would have been cracked, and it just seems like we're a lot closer to the Fed target if we're in the twos rather than in the low threes, even though it's a very small difference. I do think the market will rally as long as we see CPI come in line or under expectations. And we also have PPI, or producer price index, coming up too. Typically, if you see a drop on this, you will see a further drop on CPI. Just as if you see this rise, you will see CPI rise as well down the road. It doesn't always have to be that way, but that is what it typically does more often than not. And our last read here was a 1.3%. And when CPI hit its lowest, PPI hit its lowest back in summer as well, at a 0.2%. It nearly got deflationary. We nearly saw negative numbers. Now, I think all eyes will be on CPI, but PPI may play some role in the market's moves next week. Just look for a read under 1.3%, and that would be a positive for the market, indicating that inflation data keeps cooling. I do want to touch on Bitcoin. I see an important level to hold now, and it looks like we're establishing a bull flag here. As we trade sideways, we will see this RSI cool off, which would definitely be preferable than seeing us break this level and see the RSI cooling off with Bitcoin decreasing in price. If we get sideways action here, we can see the RSI cool off and move on our next leg up towards potentially 48,000. But if we do break 43, I am anticipating some further levels down. 43,000 will be an important level for Bitcoin to hold, and I believe it'll be a solid DCA throughout most of 2024, obviously now as well. But any pullbacks under 43,000, I would be seriously considering buying, especially if you really want to add to some Bitcoin. I personally don't see the 20,000s happening. There's just too much coming up to be excited about, too many reasons to be in Bitcoin. Why would it sell off to the 20,000s? Everyone wants a piece before the halving. We know what the halving always brings. And with the exception of the 2020 cycle, the 2012 and 2016 cycle, we did see Bitcoin run up in the year before the halving, which we are in right now. And specifically at the end of the pre-halving year. We're talking October, November, December. That's what we're seeing so far. It's playing just like the 2012 and 2016 halving cycle, where we saw an anticipatory run up in 2015 in the last few months. And the same with 2012. We saw a run up in the last few months in anticipation of the halving. I do expect by halving will be much higher in price. We may be pushing all-time highs towards 69,000. That may be a little far-fetched, but I do certainly believe we'll be much higher than where we are here in the low 40s. And I really do think any pullbacks for Bitcoin is going to be quickly met with buyers, so I think it is great to add on any pullbacks. And if you don't want to miss out, if you don't want to wait for the pullbacks, I believe DCAing every week, every month, every couple of days is a great way to go if you don't want to worry as much about price fluctuations and catching every dip and constantly watching Bitcoin's price. I also want to talk about Cleanspark. It's been extremely strong despite running up so much, becoming so overbought on the RSI. It really hasn't sold off much. We just got a little bit of sideways action, and now today we're breaking new yearly highs again. I'm still watching for this gap fill right above our long-standing resistance. Right above 765, we did see a gap. Keep in mind, not all gaps will fill, most do however. So I'm being patient with some cash on the sidelines to buy some Cleanspark if we do see a gap fill. And if we do get to the 750 area, I expect us to bounce here. This is a previous level of resistance. You can see the clear reaction on a breakout of this resistance. I do think it'll play out as a support level. We saw some really large volume over the last couple of days. We have some big boys watching this stock. Any pullbacks I believe they will add to. And sentiment has been shifting out there. I think retail as well. On any pullbacks, retail will buy. I notice across the board on social media, everyone getting really excited about Cleanspark. And in general, most people see the same vision that I do. Long term, hold this for multiple years. So we'll see how strong retail is in terms of holding and buying and loading up on Cleanspark. I definitely do think sentiment has shifted and people are getting much more optimistic, much more ready to buy up on any pullbacks, and not getting that fear on a pullback saying it's going to go much lower, but instead saying it's a buying opportunity. And I absolutely agree. Any pullback on Cleanspark or Bitcoin, there's definitely a lot of other miners out there that are very attractive still. Any pullbacks on these will be met with buyers in my opinion, and the bull market will continue. So every dip from here, in my eyes, is a buy. But keep in mind, we are overbought on the RSI. We may see a dip soon, a pullback soon, possibly a test or a retracement, possibly a fill of this gap. But we might also just trade sideways here, reset the RSI, and then go on our next run into the teens. So let me know what you think about all the data coming in. Let me know what you think is going to happen for CPI and PPI, and of course the Fed meeting coming up. And how are you feeling about Cleanspark and Bitcoin on the chart? I noticed a lot of other things starting to run as well. Cardano's starting to have a nice run. Ethereum had a nice 5% up day, broke new recent highs. Let me know what else you guys want me to cover. Thanks as always, and have a good weekend.